They said it was for my own good. That I was too sensitive to handle it. But when the camera caught what they tried to hide, I realized everything. My name's Callie, I'm 25, and my family always had a kind way of shutting me up. They called it love, but all I felt was rejection. When they planned this over-the-top vow renewal for my parents, something totally extra and ridiculous, they told me it wouldn't be healthy for me to go. Too much stress for you, Callie. So I stayed home and watched the live stream. But in the middle of the fake applause and forced speeches, a forgotten mic picked up something I was never supposed to hear. Before we keep going, drop a quick comment telling me where you're watching from, and hit subscribe, it really helps the channel. Thanks. You're way too sensitive, Callie. And the last thing we want is for this celebration to upset you. That's exactly what my mom said, using that sweet tone she always pulls out to sugarcoat cruel decisions. She told me this over the phone 2 days before my parents' vow renewal. A small, family-only ceremony full of memories, but not for me. She said it was better this way. That they'd send me the live stream link so I could feel included without the stress. Like watching from home was some kind of kindness. I stayed silent like always. Just said, okay, hung up and stared at the ceiling. Didn't cry. Learned to save that for later. They've always labeled me as too sensitive. Since I was a kid. When I'd catch the tension in my dad's eyes or my mom's fake smiles and ask if everything was okay, they'd say I was imagining things. When I went quiet at dinner, they accused me of ruining the mood. When I cried alone in my room, it was drama. As a kid, I believed it. As a teen, I started doubting. Now I just watch. And watching, I noticed the pattern. Every time something important happened, a big birthday, a family trip, any event where family image was on the line, I was left out. With polite excuses. Always the right tone. Never explicit. Always socially acceptable. I was erased, elegantly. And this time wouldn't be different. The irony? They set up an altar to celebrate lasting love, with a live stream for family and friends. Said the ceremony would be small, just close family. But in the family group chat, where I still hang around out of forgetfulness or pity, I saw photos of the decorations, guest list, even rehearsals with the wedding party. Of course, I wasn't invited. But they sent me the link to the stream. When it came, I clicked without thinking. And started watching. Then something weird happened. The camera was still being set up, guests arriving, and for a quick second before any music played, I saw someone who shouldn't have been there. Someone no one ever mentioned. Teresa. My aunt who disappeared years ago. And the way she looked at my mom. It wasn't festive. It was accusing. The family chat blew up like never before. Notifications non-stop, like everyone forgot I was still part of that group. No one mentioned me. No one tagged me. But all the photos were right there, plain as day. A giant white tent going up in my parents' backyard. Lights hanging in perfect rows like some cheesy commercial. Boxes of party favors arriving. Band rehearsals. Catering. Even the kids all dressed alike. A full-on wedding production, for 2 people married over 30 years. But here they were renewing everything. Or trying to pretend there was something to celebrate. It was weird seeing so much effort. They were never the romantic type. Never saw real affection between them. Just a shared act to keep appearances. And now, for some reason no one explained, this ceremony was the event of the year. While everyone posted their outfits, flower arrangements, behind-the-scenes snaps, and reels with forced soundtracks, I watched. Quietly. Every click, every story, every comment screamed something they'd never say out loud. You don't belong here anymore. Not that it was news. Since I started questioning some family truths. Or better, asking about them, I became the problem. First cold smiles. Then forgotten invites. Now this total distancing disguised as emotional protection. It's for your own good, Callie. Always is. I scrolled through every post hoping for some mention of my name. A last-minute invite, some hint. Nothing. Like I was dead and no one bothered to remove my number from the group. I found myself staring at a photo of my little cousin Emily helping my mom with her veil. It hit me like a slap. Emily and I were inseparable as kids. Now she was taking my place like it was hers all along. But what really froze me was a short video. Filmed quickly, out of focus, barely framed. But enough to put me on edge. My mom. Holding a wooden box. She opened the lid fast and looked inside with an expression I'd never seen on her before. Feared and guilty? Then she slammed the box shut like someone might see too much. At the scheduled time, the notification popped up. Live ceremony. Click to watch. The message was from my dad. No emojis, no warmth. Just a link. I sat on the edge of my bed, laptop on my lap. The bedroom light was the only real thing around me. Outside, their world went on like I was just a spectator. Maybe I was an audience for the perfect family theater. The stream opened with a still shot of the lit-up backyard. Everything perfectly arranged. There was even that generic instrumental soundtrack, like something from a corporate video stock library. My dad in a light suit. My mom in a white dress with subtle sparkle. They smiled at the camera like the most stable couple in the world. Like they hadn't ignored my emotional existence for years. The chairs were all filled. Neighbors, distant relatives, fake friends. Names I knew since childhood but who'd crossed the street to avoid me now. I watched closely. The speeches, the forced laughs, the fake sentimentality. Everything felt too rehearsed. Like this event was less about renewing vows, and more about telling a perfect story to cover something up. Then the camera zoomed in on the guests and I felt a gut punch. Aunt Teresa. She was always invisible. My dad's older sister who rarely spoke. One of those people always there but never noticed. No kids. No social life. Almost like family furniture. But in that video she didn't seem invisible. She looked scared. Sitting in the third row, eyes locked on the altar. Not blinking. No smile. Hands clenched so tight her knuckles were white. The camera passed her quickly. Too quickly. Like someone was avoiding showing her for too long. But I saw how she stared at my mom. Not happy. Panicked. It froze me. It was a look that said, this shouldn't be happening. And for a moment she looked right at the camera. Like she saw me. Like she had something to tell me. Then the sound cut out. The image froze. When it came back, Aunt Teresa was gone. For a while the screen just showed flowers swaying in the wind. No voices. No movement. Just that weird silence that sometimes hides more than it reveals. I almost closed the laptop. But something kept me there. Gut feeling maybe. Or stubbornness. Then the sound came back. But not right. It wasn't the background music or vows being read or forced guest laughter. It was a whisper. Right by the mic. A conversation that wasn't supposed to be on air. She still doesn't know? Of course not. Do you think they'd be doing all this if she knew? The second voice was firmer. Familiar but restrained. Like someone who knows they're doing something wrong, but crossed the line a long time ago. They could at least tell her. Before she finds out some other way. Telling her now would make it worse. And you know that. I froze. My first reaction was to pause the stream and rewind a few seconds. But it was live. No replay. I grabbed an old notebook from the drawer and started jotting down whatever I could remember. Random words, tone shifts, weird pauses. Even background noises. They were talking about me. I was sure of it. She doesn't know yet. If she knew. Telling her now would make it worse. Each sentence felt like a piece of a puzzle they never let me put together. What if this had something to do with that box my mom was holding? And what if Aunt Teresa's sudden disappearance was connected? I took a deep breath and went back to the stream trying to focus. But the ceremony had already started again. My parents were exchanging vows now. Empty words spoken with fake smiles. The crowd laughed and clapped. Their world was spinning perfectly like nothing happened. But for me everything had changed. Because at that moment, it wasn't about not being invited anymore. It was about what else they'd been hiding from me. And why. The last line caught before the mic cut out echoed in my head like a warning. She's going to find out. Sooner or later. And I swear, for a second it sounded like that second voice was Aunt Teresa's. In the days after the ceremony I couldn't get those whispers out of my head, those secrets sneaking in the middle of the party. Something was wrong. Very wrong. And I needed to figure out what it was. Unable to confront my family directly, I started digging through everything I could find at home. My eyes landed on an old box of photo albums tucked away in my childhood bedroom closet, a place I used to feel safe. Or at least I thought I did. I flipped carefully through the yellowed pages, staring at faces that felt as distant as my memories. Until I found a picture that made me freeze. It was a simple kind of blurry photo but impossible to ignore. Aunt Teresa holding a baby. A baby that wasn't me. I knew that photo. Or at least I thought I did. Because the caption read, Teresa with baby Daniel, October 2002. But that made no sense. I was born in March that year. How could someone be holding a baby months after I was born? And that baby wasn't me. I traced my fingers over the photo looking for a mistake, some detail I might have missed. Teresa was smiling, but her eyes carried a strange shadow, something between sadness and fear. That photo revealed something I never imagined. My aunt had a child and no one ever talked about it. What happened to that baby? Could that truth I was supposed to find be connected to him? A mix of anger and confusion started growing inside me. How could they hide this? How could my mom, my dad, my aunt all act like it never happened? I needed to know more. I couldn't be left at the mercy of their silence anymore. I slipped the photo into my sweater pocket, knowing it'd be the key to opening doors I was scared to even look at. But something inside me said once I pulled that thread, there'd be no turning back. The photo was just the beginning. And I was about to find out that some families keep secrets so deep they can destroy everything, including you. After finding that photo, I got obsessed. Something was hidden. I was going to dig until the truth came out, no matter the cost. I spent nights digging through digital files my mom kept on the living room computer. It was like searching for a needle in a haystack, but I knew I was close. That file nobody wanted me to see. In the middle of an old hospital document, something caught my eye. A name blacked out. It wasn't my mom's, mine, or my dad's. It was Aunt Teresa's. The file looked incomplete, like someone had deleted part of it. But you could see the start of her name scratched out, like they were trying to hide what was there. And the weirdest part, the document wasn't just any paper. It was a hospital record from the time the baby in the photo was born. Why black out her name? My heart started racing. Did Teresa have something to do with that baby's disappearance? Or worse, was she hiding the truth because she was involved in something nobody was supposed to know? I started putting together a puzzle nobody handed me. Every piece I found just made the picture more confusing and scary. I looked for other documents, hoping to find a clue that could explain that crossed-out name. That's when I found a note in a personal file, handwritten and faded by time. She can't know. Never. Who wrote that? I felt the truth was being guarded with almost obsessive intensity. Like revealing that secret could destroy not just my family but me too. I wanted to confront my mom, my aunt, anyone who could tell me the truth. But deep down I was scared. Scared of what I'd find, scared of what they'd do to keep it hidden. Staring at the computer screen, the feeling was clear. Their silence came at a high price. And I was ready to pay it. But what I didn't know yet was that the closer I got to the truth, the harder they'd try to shut me up. And maybe for my own safety, some things were better left buried forever. After discovering the censored hospital file, my obsession with the truth only grew. That scratched-out name was like a shadow hanging over everything. A shadow named Teresa for some reason. I started watching old videos I had saved on the computer. Birthday parties, Christmas gatherings, family reunions. Teresa was always there. Always in the background, like she was stuck somewhere she didn't belong. A figure no one really wanted to see. She never interacted much. Not someone who craved attention, but also didn't seem comfortable being ignored. A strange presence, half-faded, almost invisible to everyone but me. Sometimes she'd look right at the camera, but her eyes carried a deep sadness, like she was trying to say something but was too afraid. In other clips, I'd see my mom and other family members exchange quick looks when Teresa said something. Cut-off conversations, forced smiles, a tension you could almost feel in the air. The more I watched, the more it felt like Teresa was a prisoner of secrets. Not just hers but everyone around her. Why did no one really talk about her? Why was she always avoided? With each video I felt like I was looking at a story no one ever told me. A story she might have wanted to tell but couldn't. And there, frozen in those moments in time, I started to realize Teresa wasn't just a name crossed out on documents or a shadow in photos. She was the key to everything I needed to uncover. But the more I uncovered about her, the more I felt like I was walking into a web of lies. Like the closer I got to the truth, the deeper I'd fall. And I still didn't know that this fall might be the most painful of my life. The video ended and I shut the computer down slowly, trying to process everything I'd seen. But the truth, the one I was desperate to find, still felt like it was slipping through my fingers. Then out of nowhere my phone vibrated. A new message from an unknown number. I opened it and the surprise hit me immediately. It was Teresa. She'd never reached out before, never answered my shy attempts to contact her. After years of silence, there she was, with a short cryptic message. Have you finally started to see? My chest tightened. That message cut through the mystery like a sharp knife. Teresa wasn't denying anymore that something was going on. Something I needed to understand even if it was dangerous. I replied cautiously, unsure if I could trust her. I asked her to explain, to say what she'd been hiding. No answer came. For hours my phone stayed silent, leaving me caught between hope and anxiety. Teresa's silence spoke louder than any words. It was like she was testing me, waiting to see if I could handle the weight of the truth that came with that little text. But I couldn't turn back anymore. I had started to see, and now nothing could hold me back. What was Teresa really trying to show me? What was she afraid I'd discover? Staring at my dark phone screen, the only thing I knew for sure was that my world was about to collapse. And I had to be ready for it. Setting up the meeting with Teresa cost more than I expected. Every second waiting in that cold cafe made me question if I was ready to hear the truth, or a better rehearsed lie. When she showed up, the shock hit immediately. Teresa looked more fragile than in old photos and videos, with tired eyes like she was carrying years of silence on her shoulders. She sat across from me, offering a shy smile, but her eyes avoided mine, caught in a mix of fear and guilt. I didn't waste time. Teresa, are you my biological mom? I asked straight up, no beating around the bush. She hesitated, looked away, and said in a low voice, No, Callie. I'm not your real mom. My breath caught. The denial was too quick, to be honest. But then tears filled her eyes and a barely noticeable tremble ran through her. But there are things you need to know. Things your family never had the guts to tell you. Those words froze me. She denied it, but her eyes told another story. A story I needed to uncover. Why hide something so important? What was Teresa afraid of? I needed answers, and for the first time, I realized she might be the only one who could give me some kind of truth, no matter how bitter. But there was more, something hidden between the lines. And her silence said this conversation was just the beginning. The truth was coming, and I didn't know if I was ready for what she'd reveal. Still processing the meeting with Teresa, I decided I had to dig deeper on my own. That lunch hadn't given me clear answers, only more questions. The only place to look for clues was my grandmother's house, a place full of old boxes, forgotten memories, and buried secrets. I climbed up to the attic, pushing an old chest with effort. Inside, I found a dusty folder hidden at the bottom of a box of broken toys. It looked forgotten, like someone had tried to keep it out of my sight. I opened it carefully and found yellowed papers. Ultrasound scans, handwritten notes, and a birth certificate different from mine. My heart raced. On the certificate, the mother's name wasn't my official mom's. It was another name. A name I recognized immediately. Teresa. It was like that document held the key to the truth no one had dared speak aloud. I looked over every photo and paper, trying to piece it together. Why had my family kept this hidden? What was I supposed to do with that information? I knew that if anyone found out I'd found the folder, things could get worse. Maybe even push me away from what was left of that family. But I had to see it through. The secret was in those worn-out pages, and I couldn't ignore it anymore. The truth was right there at my fingertips. And it was up to me to decide what to do next. The truth Teresa revealed hit me like a punch in the gut. She told me, voice breaking and eyes watery, that she got pregnant as a teenager, caught in a moment of despair and loneliness no one in the family wanted to admit. Her parents, strict and controlling, didn't let her raise the baby. The decision was theirs. The baby, me, had to be given to her older sister, Elizabeth. The perfect Elizabeth who always got all the praise and attention, while Teresa faded into the family shadows. I was hearing it all, feeling each word stab like a knife in my chest. Everything I thought I knew about where I came from was a lie. I wasn't the biological daughter of the woman who raised me. I was a secret carefully buried beneath a flawless facade. Teresa spoke about the silence that consumed her for years, the burden of hiding such a vital part of her life. She asked me to understand, to see beyond appearances and judgments. But I felt anger, a bitter mix of betrayal and abandonment. How could they do this to me? How could they hide me, deny me while I grew up believing a lie? And Elizabeth? The sister who lived my life for me? I knew this story was just the start of what I had to face, because now, more than ever, I wanted to know why all of this happened and who would pay for this betrayal. My family's silence came at a price, and I was ready to find out what it was. When I finally faced Elizabeth, I couldn't hold back the rage boiling inside me. I needed to hear it from her own mouth, to see if Teresa's story was real. "You stole my life," I said, voice shaking but steady. "You knew everything and never said a word. How could you?" Elizabeth looked at me like I was an intruder, a threat who'd popped up out of nowhere to destroy the perfect life she'd built with so much effort. "This is crazy, Callie. Teresa's always been unstable, spreading lies to play the victim. None of what you're saying is true," she snapped, voice rising with denial and desperation. She cried, accused Teresa, but something in her reaction made me hesitate. Her voice wavered, her eyes darted away. "I didn't steal anything from you," she whispered weakly, almost inaudible, before regaining control and lifting her head with wounded pride. I knew there was a buried truth there, between the tears and the words she refused to say. But to find it, I'd have to go deeper, and face everything that family had been trying to hide for so long. The feeling of being caught in a silent war consumed me, and I still didn't know who I could really trust. I wasn't sure I was ready to take that step, but I had to shake that family out of its silence. With trembling hands, I anonymously sent the leaked audio clip, the whispered conversation where they said, "She doesn't know the truth yet." It wasn't just a provocation. It was a call to open everyone's eyes. The secret had to come out even if no one had the courage to talk about it. In the days that followed, I felt the tension in the air grow. Encrypted messages started circulating among relatives. Suspicious looks replaced polite smiles. The mask of perfection my family wore to hide its rotten core began to crack. At dinner, an uncle turned his face away abruptly when I greeted him. A cousin asked, barely hiding her curiosity, "Did you hear the audio that's going around?" It was just the beginning. I realized that by pressing that invisible button, I had triggered a chain reaction, and there was no going back. That little leaked recording became the catalyst that would force my family to face the ghosts they'd been trying to bury. And I was ready to face the storm heading our way. As soon as the audio leaked, the attack came fast, and from where I least expected it. Elizabeth and my dad teamed up in a silent offensive, trying to shut me down. "Callie, you're making things up, being ungrateful," my dad said at a family meeting, his voice trying to sound firm but hiding the fear of scandal. Elizabeth, more aggressive, called me unstable, a threat to the peace they wanted to keep at all costs. "You just want to destroy everything we've built," she said, her eyes flashing with anger and fear. It was an invisible siege where every word became a weapon against me. They accused me of being the troublemaker, the problem, threatening to shatter the family's perfect image. But what they didn't get was that I couldn't and wouldn't let it slide. That pressure only fueled my determination. The family's silence started turning into an unbearable noise, and I felt myself getting more and more isolated, but I had something they didn't: the truth. And it was only a matter of time before it blew up right in their faces. Alone in my room, the pressure crushed me. Elizabeth and my dad's words spun in my head, pushing me to the edge. It was like the whole world had turned its back on me. For a moment I thought about disappearing. Erasing my name, vanishing from their lives forever. The idea was tempting, running away from the pain, rejection, and endless fight. But then, like an echo cutting through time, I remembered Teresa's words. She told me with a firmness I hadn't fully understood before, "They killed you in silence. It's time to make some noise." It wasn't just about me. It was about all the suffocated secrets, hidden truths, sacrifices never acknowledged. I couldn't stay silent or give up. I decided that if it was going to be war, it would be on my terms. Not with yelling or losing control, but with strategy, patience, and courage. It was my choice: disappear or make noise. And I chose to fight. I decided my response wouldn't be direct. If they thought they could shut me up with lies and manipulation, I was going to play by their rules. But my way. I started by creating fake social media profiles, people no one could trace back to me. On those accounts, I spread small truths, hinting at facts that had been buried until then. It wasn't just cold revenge anymore. It was justice. Every subtle comment, every silent share planted doubts in their minds and in those around them. I saw the effect fast. Private talks leaking out, suspicions growing, alliances breaking apart. They tried to deny, dismiss, intimidate. But the doubt was already there, sneaking into every corner of that family that seemed so perfect. I kept control of the pieces on the board, always 2 steps ahead, watching reactions and adjusting my strategy. The war had started and I was determined to win it. Not with shouting but with sharp silence and precise moves. What started as tiny seeds of doubt quickly turned into a storm. Conversations changed. At family lunches, words carried a different weight. Whispers of suspicion that hadn't existed before. Relatives who once closed ranks to protect Elizabeth began to question. Friends who ignored the signs started distancing themselves, seeing the shadow I planted growing and invading everything. My dad, always so strong in front of others, showed the first signs of wear. His face, once steady, now showed traces of sleepless nights and stress eating him up inside. But he couldn't show weakness, not to them, not to me. I stayed silent. Just watched. Like someone watching a play they already know the script to, but with an ending still unwritten. Every suspicious glance, every doubt rising was a silent victory. They were starting to taste what it feels like to be targeted by the truth. And I knew the best was yet to come. It was Teresa who finally broke the silence. After years of suffocating, she decided she couldn't carry that pain alone anymore. She posted an anonymous rant on social media. Nothing direct, no names, but full of truths that couldn't be ignored. She talked about secrets guarded fiercely, choices made to protect appearances, and a silence that destroys families from the inside. The message spread fast. Anyone who knew the story, even on the surface, understood everything. Every word hit hard. Elizabeth was visibly shaken, and whispers turned into loud murmurs. My dad tried to downplay it, saying it was just another passing drama, but no one believed him. The scales were starting to tip. That half-truth Teresa revealed was like a spark in the powder keg I had been building. And I knew the explosion was near. I had to get everything in order. I couldn't let my side of the story become just another rumor lost in family tensions. I spent days gathering every detail. Dates, old documents, photos, recordings of whispered conversations caught on a forgotten microphone. Everything organized in a flawless dossier, ready to open the eyes of anyone willing to see. I picked a local journalist known for not being intimidated, someone who'd exposed several family scandals and knew how to handle delicate stories like mine. I sent the material carefully with a simple message: this is the truth no one wants to tell. Then all that was left was to wait and watch the bomb I just dropped take effect. After sending the dossier, I wiped my social media. Disappeared off the radar just like I planned. It wasn't time to show up or respond, but to let silence speak for me. While the media dived into speculation and rumors, I stayed calm. I knew that in the game I started, time was my most powerful ally. They struggled, trying to control the narrative. I watched from afar, letting the truth slowly seep in, eating away every lie, every facade. No one likes the unknown, the invisible that refuses to shut up. I didn't have to shout. I just had to be a shadow quietly growing. And that shadow was about to swallow everything. When the scandal blew up, there was no turning back for Elizabeth. Clients' calls stopped, contracts vanished, and the reputation she built so hard started crumbling in days. At family meetings, the silence around her was heavy, a kind of silent but final condemnation. Some relatives came to me looking for answers, wanting to know if I was really involved in that avalanche of revelations. They wanted to argue, confront, maybe even make peace. But I chose total silence. It wasn't the time for talks or explanations. It was time to let her downfall speak louder than any word. I felt a bitter mix of victory and emptiness. Yeah, I won, but at what cost? Did this fall erase the deep wounds I carry? Still, from my silence, a new power was born. When I finally agreed to speak, it was just a few words. No drama, no long answers or apologies. I just wanted the truth, I said to the camera, looking steady. They preferred to exclude me than face who I really am. That was enough to leave everyone thinking. I wasn't asking for pity or approval, I just wanted what was hidden to be exposed. The interview made an immediate impact. The audience grew, social media buzzed, and the pressure on my family only increased. But I wasn't there to feed the circus, just to make clear that deep down it was all about one thing: justice. After all that, I decided I had to do something just for me. I couldn't carry that last name anymore, one that stood for lies and exclusion. With Teresa's support, I legally took her last name. It wasn't just changing a piece of paper. It was a quiet statement, a simple but final move. I choose the ones who chose me, I thought as I signed the papers. It was breaking free from a past they tried to control and a personal win no one could take away. This new name didn't erase my story, but it stood for my right to define who I really am, out from the secrets and shadows. When I met Teresa that afternoon, all that existed between us was silence. For the first time we walked side by side. No empty words, no rehearsed apologies, just a mutual understanding that didn't need to be said. It wasn't a perfect ending. It wasn't a miracle cure. It was just the end of the line for so much silent pain, for years of secrets that pushed us apart. She didn't need to apologize. I didn't need to accept anything beyond that moment of presence. At last, we respected what we once were to each other. Shadows of a past now left behind. The future was still uncertain, but in that shared silence, I found a peace I never thought possible. If this story hit you somehow, drop a "I felt that" in the comments below. And if you want more stories like this, subscribe and hit the bell. I'm working on others that'll hit you even harder.